All right, so as previously discussed and shown in my last live stream, and I think I've done a couple of shorts on this as well, we are taking or using the notes here of this second fret, okay? Specifically on string 5, 4, and 3, and then each one we fret at the second fret. So we have open 5, fretted 5, open 4, fretted 4, open 3, fretted 3. And the notes there are A, B, right? D, E, G, A. So that gives us 6 notes, and these are really, really important notes, right? Now, I did a video a few weeks back, and it was called The Second Fret, and it outlined and explained all these notes. But really what it is, or what those notes are, they're part of a scale. Yes, it's the minor pentatonic scale. I didn't want to say that at the time because for those of you that have never played scales or don't want to play scales, I didn't want to intimidate you, put you off, or have you lose interest before you started. I actually just wanted you to see how easy and helpful having a scale or two under your belt can be. And that's all we're doing here, is we are playing the notes from the open position minor pentatonic scale. So these notes here on these strings, on 5, 4, and 3, all fretted at the second fret, open, fretted, open, fretted, open, fretted, those, when played this way, are the exact same as playing this. Now the notes aren't all the same. Some of them are the same, but the relationship, the musical relationship is. In fact, these notes we would be playing in E minor or E or G, right? Because this scale is sort of split between the E minor and the G, because E minor is the relative minor of G major. So the notes are they're the same, okay? So what we then can do is we can use these notes while we're playing our open chords, our G's, our A minors, our A's, our D's, all that kind of stuff. We can use these notes here, and we can use these notes down here too, like part of the higher part of that open pentatonic. I'm just not using them at this moment, right? Because remember, we don't always have to play every note of every scale. We can just play little bits of it. So it's important to remember that the relationship here is these three right here are the same as 5-7, 5-7, 5-7 played here, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right? So remember that. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to play these notes along and over chords. So in this case, just to keep it simple, we're going to go with 2 chords, and we're going to go with G major and D major, okay? And we're going to see how those notes, well, fit into that, okay? So if we play a G, D, now, there isn't any one way to do this. You can use any of these notes in any combination you want. So here I'm using the D from my D chord, and that's part of that open pentatonic. I could incorporate those if I want, or I could just So let's take a look close up of what we're doing here, okay? Here we go. So now we are up close and personal, and what we're going to do first is we're just going to worry about the G chord and playing these notes with the chord of G, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got my G position. I'm going to strum my G, and as it's ringing out, I'm going to pluck the bass note, right? Now remember, when we play our open chords, especially if you play your G this way, every chord but A has a root on your ring finger, right? So we have G, we have C, we have D, we have E, we have F, and we're back to the G. So that makes it easy to kind of remember. Now all we're going to use right now is, and I'm going to be using my big finger. Now that's because I play my G this way. Now if you play your G this way, you might end up having to use or wanting to use two fingers. That's up to you. Okay? All right, so for me, it's the big finger. Now what we're doing is we're playing this G right here. Okay? G, and then we're going to go straight down, alternate picking, open, fretted, open, fretted, open, fretted, open. Now, it's important to remember that you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. You can play any of these notes in any order. Just like when we have, say, in the minor, A minor pentatonic, we take this four-note box here, and we play it like a scale. That's what it sounds like. But then we could play it this way. Same four notes, but we've added a little rhythm and tempo and timing and stuff to it to make it into more of a riff, a lick, or a melody. And that's what we can eventually do here. But first, we got to become proficient with it. So let's just work on that. So let's do the G, and now this is the B with that finger. Open B, open E, open A. Okay? Okay, once again. G, open, B, open, E, open, A, open. And you could do this any way you want, as I mentioned before. You don't have to even play the opens. You could just go, right? Or you could play all opens. Now don't worry about making a melody right away, because again, just like when you played your scales, you're going to sound very scale-ish, all right off the bat. So don't worry about that. So what will happen is as you become proficient playing these notes in all these different ways, right, and your comfort level is really big, you're going to start making melodies, right? You're going to start making So right here, I'm just going back and forth with that finger over those three strings. Pretty simple. That's it. All right, so that's how to use the notes on and coming and going to the G chord. Now let's take a look at the D chord. All right, so let's now start working off of the D. Now we're going to use really the same notes down through here, but now we have at our disposal, right? Let's take a look at the D shape. And remember, the ring finger is always on a root, so we know that that's a D right there, right? B string 3rd fret. So this opens up the high end of that open pentatonic scale that we haven't used yet, okay? But these are all good notes. So what we're going to do is we're going to play our D chord, and we're going to get familiar with the notes. Now, no matter what we play, and again, the same thing applies to when we were talking about G, we can play any of those notes in any order. We are limited only to your creativity and your imagination, okay? So sometimes to keep it simple, I'll just let's go all the way up and back. All those notes are the same. Remember when we did the G? Same notes that we used. Okay? So here we're on the D, but we're still using these 3 strings right here off the D. They'll all work with both chords, so it doesn't really matter. You're open to using these notes any way you want, right? Okay, so let's go off the D and try. Anything we do is good. Right? So now because we're down here in the D, we can take advantage of that. Okay, again, I'm just freewheeling it here. So now we know that we can use any of those notes. The only thing I stayed away from was the root of G up here, right? If you notice, even though I came off the D, I only went up to the 5th string. And it's not that it wouldn't go. I just feel that if you go all the way up, that's kind of closure right there. Now I should really play a G chord. Don't have to, but I should. I just feel that that's what it sounds like, so I'm going to avoid that note. Okay, so now we've seen that we can play the exact same notes in any order. We're, again, limited only by our imagination, and we can play them off of the D chord or the G chord. So now what we're going to do, well, we're going to go in between the two, back and forth, all right? So check this out. Okay, so I've got a chord progression here. It's in 4/4, so there are four beats to a bar, and there are 2 bars per chord, G to D to G. Okay, so that's 8 beats of music. So we have to, whenever we're playing to something, there are some guidelines or parameters or rules or whatever you want to call them we've got to follow. Now, we already know that any of these notes we play are going to sound good over the D or the G. Now, the way we've talked in the past, we also know that even though those are all good notes, there are going to be some notes that are going to sound better over certain chords and than they do over other chords. So we want to be mindful of that and try to match those notes to the chords by listening to our source music, whether it's a guitar player, whether it's coming from an amp or earbuds in your ear. We want to make sure that we use that part of our guitar foundation, right? Left hand, right hand, ears, and brain. We want to use the ears and make sure that we don't lose track of where we are, right? So in this case, I've got the 2 chords, G and D. It's in 4/4, 4 beats per bar, 2 bars per chord, right? Here we go. It's the G. to the D. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. G, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. D. Now we got the tempo, right? You can see that there's a lot of avenues that we can take, right? But we're using just those notes. So as long as you stick to those notes, you'll just sound fine. The rest is it's just practice. It's just like anything. All the way back to your first chords, your first bar chord, your first scale. Everything seems awkward at first. You keep at it, and away you go. Give it a try. Don't be overwhelmed. It will take time, but well worth the investment. This takes your guitar playing to a whole new level. All right, so remember, just like everything else that we do with guitar, it always seems, well, awkward and difficult and complicated and overwhelming and, exasperating the very first time. Because no matter how often we play, how long we've been playing, when we bring in something new, we're we got to adapt to it. Now, for some of us, depending on your your level of playing and how long you've been playing, this could take 10 minutes to get accustomed to. It could take 10 hours. It could take 10 days. And it could take 10 weeks. That's up to you. But don't let this overwhelm you. It's plug on. It's difficult at first, but this will take your guitar playing to a whole other level. Okay? All right, if you have any questions or comments or anything about this video, please send them in the comments. Thanks for your ongoing support. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. It tells YouTube that, well, I might be a somebody when I'm really not. And hey, I'm here to help any way I can. So thanks a lot. And remember one thing. Just play your guitar because that's the only way to get better. All right, bye for now.